Hi, I'm James. Welcome to another edition of Homegrown. On this week's edition, we're going to go visit the Assman family and look at some of their businesses, including their farm implement store down in South Central, South Dakota.
I'm Mary Beth Assman. I'm Joe and Esther's daughter. I have had 6 older brothers. One just passed away in June, and we were in a family operation. We split up like in 2006, I think, and just each kind of did our own ranching operation from then.
And so that's how we ended up here. Tell us a little bit about this ranch, this place.
Yeah, when we split up, each one of us kind of had our own place. No one really wanted this place, which is the one I wanted, so it all worked out great. But anyway, it was an old, kind of an old historical house. And when we first moved here, the house had been abandoned for 40 years. So there was no plumbing, no electricity, no heating, no cooling. So we had a huge project. And we kept it all historically correct as possible. We never changed any walls, all original woodwork, all original floors. I like antiques, so it fit well.
So it's really obviously a lot of pride here, and I just love, outside. First thing I noticed when I walked up is it's just this huge front yard. I mean, this house is kind of set back into the grove of trees.
You don't feel any wind.
No, I'm sure you don't. But yet you got this huge open view with all these beautiful rolling hills and cattle grazing on them. It's just wonderful. Let's talk a little bit more about your family and your upbringing. Just tell us about your folks and how they've helped you into.
I had great parents. My mom and dad were such hardworking people. I'm glad Dad always wanted to buy dirt. I think we paid for most of it, but we went through the 80s and interest was 20%, and we grubbed her out. But it makes you appreciate what hardship is, and they grew up in the 30s, so they grubbed her out too. We didn't do much for family vacations. It was, of course, with the 7 kids, I wouldn't have went on a family vacation either. It was work.
You're the youngest and the only girl, is that correct? So does that mean that they picked on you more, or they protected you more?
Probably some of each, but it was almost like there was 7 boys, because I had to work in the field and work cattle and do it all. So.
You didn't just get to sit in the house and be pampered?
No, I was not at all. No. We grew up tough.
Greg, right?
Greg Assman.
Greg, okay.
Yep.
So Greg Assman, and you are the oldest, right?
I'm the oldest son,
You've been involved in the implement dealer? Or?
Yeah. I went to Denver Automotive and Diesel. I mean, it was a Votech school. And then the Case Company, J.I. Case at that time, was looking for a dealer, a case dealer in this area. Dad wrote him a letter. They just out of an ad in the paper, and he wrote a letter to him, and by golly, they sent a guy out to talk to him. And shoot, first thing you know, they signed him up. We built a little 24 by 24 block building on the south side of there, and took the cattle corrals out that was around it, and put a cement floor in it. And it was about a year or so later, you'd go to dealer meetings, and so Dad had me go to one. We had to go down to, I think it was Sidney, Nebraska. Drove down there to an old air base that they had this, and they had like tractors that could drive, we could drive around and stuff. But anyway, and they were just going over different things, and they call it a dealer standards, and it showed you supposed to have, it was a whole list of all the requirements. And this fella that signed this dad up for being a dealer, I said, gee, his name is Warren Silius, and I said, gee, Warren, man, we've been in there for about a year, and I said, I don't think we got half this stuff that they're talking about here. Well, I know, he said, they're just kind of working towards that. And I said, well, how in the heck did we ever get to be signed up as a dealer? Well, I said, I tell you, they had a contest going, and any block man that got a new dealer signed up and got him approved, you'd win a new television set. And he said, oh, did my wife sure wanted that TV, he said. So that's how.
So you got approved.
We got approved. I mean, that's how we got started in 69.
So it was a real family effort
Oh, absolutely.
to get this thing off the ground.
Yeah, it was. I mean, everybody, and then of course, you know, Dad just had a lot of foresight. I mean, he, you know, in 1980, I mean, he was not that. Dad was born in 23, and in 1980, he already sold that business to us.
So how did that work out? If there was, you know, 5 of you plus your folks still obviously heavily involved,
Right.
there had to be some times where there was some tension there amongst your family, but yet you guys seem so tight still.
What Dad said, he said, you know, boys, I could find a reason every day to be mad about something, but I choose not to, and I look at the bigger picture.
Right.
You know, as kids getting started in the field, I mean, you'd back up and turn too short and
Right.
break a huge
Screw
joint or
things
something,
up.
and you know, I mean, yeah, he'd be upset, but it wasn't, you know,
Wasn't crushing upset.
no, absolutely not. He just wanted to help you
Right.
figure out how to do it, you know, better
Yeah.
the next time.
But I just think it's kind of neat how you guys as a family have, you know, you're keeping this implement dealer going, you're raising some bison, doing some farming. But I mean, you guys are just absolutely refusing to let this rural community die.
Oh, yeah,
you know, and I think that's such a testament to the resolve of the people that live out here on the land.
I'm Chris Assman, and this is a Jim Beer ranch that our family bought back in 1965, I think it was, when our family bought this ranch.
Okay, and so we are sitting inside of what, you know, people may not understand by the shot they're looking at, it inside of an old barn, is that right?
Yes, this is actually the hay mound of the barn. That was, there's some pictures of it, and we got family that originally, of the great-grandparents built this barn in 1917.
Wow.
And so it's got a lot of history. Of course, the use of these buildings has gone by the wayside because we just don't have milk cows and
Right.
you know, horses to do the work and all that anymore. So we're utilizing it for something altogether different now.
And so you guys have kind of taken a different approach. It looks like over the last so long you're converting this into something else. So tell us what you're doing here.
When we first got the property, the barn was really bad shape. It looked like it was going
Right.
to fall down.
Like it was built in 1917 or
Built in
something?
1917, yeah. So we either had to do something or it was going to cave in.
Mm-hmm.
And we decided to save it, and the Lord impressed upon us to use it for like a cowboy church.
Sure, cool.
And so we, in the process of 16 years now, we put a new foundation under it, and you run out of money and you do a little bit more. And then I got hurt in a car accident, and that stalled out things for a while too. But anyway, we've really, in the last year now, I've really had a surge to go forward. We've done a lot to the inside of the hay mound. We've actually had a wedding in here. We've had
Awesome.
this fall festival activities that our daughters put together and my wife.
Cool.
And so we're starting a process of utilizing for different things. And eventually we want to have services here on Saturday night for
Sure.
the local community.
It's just awesome that you're, you know, taking something that was nearly falling down and repurposing it into that, you know, what will probably be a center point of this little local community.
Well, I'm sure it will. You know, it's already, even though it wasn't ready for activities, we had a wedding in here 2 weeks ago.
Right.
And of course, this part was pretty done, but like downstairs is going to be our what we call the fellowship hall.
Sure.
And it's just open 2x4s and installation showing yet. But
Right.
we do have plumbing and heating and electrical. It's not all completed, but good enough to keep it warm in here. And it's quite a ways to anywhere. And people, you know, don't mind traveling, but if it's on a Sunday morning,
Right.
they'd rather not travel that far if they're going
Right.
to go to church or something. So.
Right. So you're trying to fill that need right here so people don't have to go 30 miles to go to a church service
Right.
or you know, see their kids get married. Maybe they can do
Yeah.
it right in their own backyard.
That's right.
It's awesome. I'm glad that there's people like you that, you know, have that foresight like you were talking about, that are, you know, maybe you don't get to every project, but you're preserving it as much as you can, and you're trying to look ahead so that you just see the value in some of these old things. I think it's wonderful.
Through the years, our family has, you know, expanded into multiple different aspects of agriculture. Our brother Mike now has a buffalo herd, and his son are together with another family raising buffalo, and they do the organic farming. And then my brother Dave owns the implement company, which we're standing at right now. And the two older brothers who were previous owners of the implement company, Greg and Chris, have sold out to my younger brother Dave. And my sister Mary Beth has a ranch. And you know, my parents were just amazing people. You know, my mother having to put up with a gang of ruffians and the things we did, and most of which we never got caught for, of course. But I wouldn't trade my upbringing with anybody on earth that I know. If you're in a farm ranch operation and you're primarily don't really need much for farm equipment, more a haying line, this is the place to come.
Right.
And as you see here, it's if you look around here, it looks like a place that the scrap iron guy should show up. But if you're needing a part for a piece of equipment that's 30 plus years old, you head to the bone pile, so to speak.
Right.
You know.
Well, and there's only, like I said, there's only so many of them left.
A few years after I went to work at the welding shop, I decided I wanted to build me a cannon for my landscape. So I took a big piece of shaft and I did all the machining to taper the shaft the way the old Civil War cannons were. They had that round ball on the butt end, and then it was large and then neck down and flared at the muzzle. And so I built me a functioning cannon for my landscape, and had a set of wheels similar to that, but a little bit shorter on it, so it kind of had to have the look and still be functional. And
so,
because
have you fired it?
Oh yeah. We stir the neighbors up every now and again with it, let the neighbors know we're still home, you know.
That sounds like fun. Kids, don't do this at home. Don't build your own cannon. So I'm going to go out and we're going to find an old early 70s Chevy pickup out here that I'm going to try and buy today. I can tell already.
Me not knowing my way around here that well, because I haven't been in the west lot for probably 30 years, it's kind of an adventure for me too.
You run a welding shop in town?
Yes, here about, well, the 1st of August 1985 was my first day at the welding shop that my father-in-law built in Winter, South Dakota.
Okay.
And he turned 89 here just recently, and I bought him out a number of years ago, and so now I'm the owner of it, looking for another young man to move in and kind of buy a welding shop and take over where I'm. Hopefully we'll be able to leave the place here in a, you know, not too distant future. But.
And so do you have a main, you know, industry or something that you work on in the welding shop?
We're more of iron supply. You know, we'll stretch a frame on our truck, and we rebuild drive lines for trucks, and we, you know, any type of farm equipment that needs repair, we take care of. And iron supply people travel 100 miles to come to our shop because we always have a pretty extensive iron supply.
I gotta go look at this old pickup over here.
We used to load ear corn on it.
Oh, it does look like it's got a feeder or something off the side.
As a young guy, I used to drive from here down to the place where my sister Mary Beth lives. Yeah, I put on quite a few miles hauling corn to down there south of Carter, where Mary Beth's ranch is. But it probably hasn't moved for
That's awesome.
30 years, I suppose, or more, maybe.
That's just what I'm looking for.
Well, I'm sure old brother Dave would be happy to make a deal with you.
All right, I might have to chat with him.
You'd have to look hard to find a spot that ain't bent, though.
got quite a few treasures out there.
We do.
I was like a kid in a candy store looking at old pickups and old tractors and old wagon wheels, and
Yeah.
it's pretty neat.
Yeah, driving by from the highway, if you'd think, wow, man, this guy's got a lot of junk, and we do. There's a lot of it that could be in the iron pile, but every time I think I need to call in the magnet trucks and load her up, somebody comes by and needs an old W-block Chevy motor or something.
So we're at the Assman Implement, which is what you own and operate. That's kind of your...
Yep, me and my wife and family, yes. We're a small dealership, mostly catered to ranchers. You know, we just kind of have ranch-sized tractors and hay and equipment. We don't do much for farming or combines. And we still have a farming and ranching operation. And my youngest son runs that mostly. We were Case IH from 69 to 2013, and then when they became Case New Holland, and we kind of had difference of opinions on how big or how many dealerships we should own. So we parted ways with them, and we're McCormick, Vermeer, McDonald. We sell Diamond T and travel-on trailers, and we like the short line companies. Short line is companies that, like Vermeer, they specialize in hay and machinery. They make balers, make cutters, make rakes.
Pretty specialized just in the hay and world.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So at this dealer here, I'm assuming that you guys also work on stuff and service things, or?
Yeah, we work on just pretty much everything that we sell. And we prefer the stuff that's pre-computer, of course, because then it's just wrenches, oil, and and you don't have to figure out which sensor isn't talking to the other ones.
And a mechanic can figure it out rather than consulting the computer.
Right, yeah.
Yep.
It's most of my mechanics are younger than me, but they're not high. It's hard to find young folks that'll come and work on this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know, schools used to teach a lot of the skills that we all had as kids, but I don't think they teach those skills anymore at school. And so many families are so busy just trying to earn enough money to survive that, you know, in a lot of single parent homes, you know, a lot of kids don't ever have the opportunity to learn the stuff that we did in our rural communities.
Well, you probably had to drive a tractor at a young age.
Oh yeah. Yeah, sometimes on the way home from church, you got out and went to the field with your church clothes on.
No time to go home for lunch. We just got to get rolling, right?
A lot of times you just hope Dad remember where he dumped you off when it got dark. Like everywhere, we're short-handed on mechanics, and parts take quite a bit longer to get now than it did.
Sure.
So we end up with a lot of these that get opened up, and then you got to wait a few days to get stuff in. So yeah.
Well, I just look at some of these. I mean, this is a fairly new machine here.
Yep.
Broken half, you know, and I'm just thinking.
Yeah, it was
that's a big job.
That's a big job, yeah. Because we have to split it in two places, and it's a clutch pack on the mechanical front end, and then an issue that happened caused that we have to work on the pinion shaft.
So how many hours go into something like that? Do you have any idea?
These tractors are new enough that we haven't split a lot of these, so it's a lot of book time, and then and it's a learning curve for us too, because you know, the old tractors, we know that stuff. You just, you know what jack stands you need, you know what size wrenches you need and all that. This is all metric, and it's all new, and there's so much electronics, you know, that.
So there's a lot less turning wrenches and a lot more reading on some of these.
A lot of reading, yeah.
We had an old gentleman working for us, his name was Walt Arcorn, and in them days, no cabs on tractors. We just, he had a heat houser. And we seen him coming up the hill over here with that tractor and that heat houser. And he had one eye, had a cataract in his eye from doing iron work. Mom had let my brother Gordon out to come and play with us, and we were out here in this corral just about where this building and that loading chute is right there. And he had come around this side, and there was a fence about right in through here. And he was peeking through the fence at us, and he wanted to get through, but he couldn't crawl through the panels, so he ran out on the road to come back around the other way. And by that time, Walt had come over the hill with this tractor, and it had a narrow front end on it and a farmhand loader, and it just ran right over him, crushed his chest and his head, and he was instantly killed. But it was a terrible tragedy. But the greatest thing that brought me out of it was Mr. Arcorn didn't come to work the next day, but my parents went down to his house, and my mom, I'm sure when they got there, he didn't know what to expect from whether they were going to attack him or, whatever. But Mom held out her arms to him and embraced him. And he said it just like he fell in her arms and just collapsed from emotion. And so he came back and worked for us for a lot of years. But so to me, the biggest thing out of it was their forgiveness. Yeah. A lot of families are tore up over an accident like that, where they want to blame somebody for the accident. And so anyway, I've always tried to, myself in that position, if something happened to one of my grandkids or my child, could I forgive that person? And so that's one of the highest levels of Christianity that you can do. And so that was one of the greatest things my parents left to us, was the power of forgiveness.
Tailor rides just as well as any man.